Hi, everybody. It's Kim Pearson again of Uniquely Savvy Inc. and the creator of Move from Fear to Freedom and Create a Life You Love. I am here once again with Michelle Mong, who is a mental health therapist. And I know that you've already heard from us, but what Michelle is sharing is so important. It is so compelling, and it is so in alignment with both of our hearts to destigmatize the conversation around mental health. It's so important that we feel to create a safe space for the conversation to be had, for people to be seen, for people to be heard. And Michelle has a pretty spectacular story that I want to bring to light just briefly. And Michelle, could you just tell us why you became a mental health therapist?
Sure, absolutely. So my story begins in junior high and high school, where I started being somebody who got pulled aside in gatherings because people wanted to share things that were going on for them. And I listened, and people would call me at night and talk to me. And it turns out that I ended up being able to be someone who was present, and I ended up being someone who was, non-judgmental and listened. And it felt really good for me to be someone who could be helpful. And it felt good to see people, feel like that, someone was walking beside them and that this was, something good. So I continued my journey then on to University of Washington and decided to become to major in psychology. And at the time, though, one of the things that happens with people who are helpers, which is often true, is we're really good about helping, not always good about helping ourselves. And so that had kind of, ended up getting packed away a little bit for me. And I was used to being everybody else's rock, but I hadn't gotten my own help. And so all my stuff that I hadn't dealt with ended up kind of coming to a head. And so my junior year at the University of Washington, I got to the point where I started becoming very anxious and depressed, and even overwhelmed to the point where I became suicidal. So I went to the psychology department and asked for a therapist. And I got a very nice grad student who absolutely meant well. I know this to this day. And, she asked me about my depression symptoms, and I told her about my depression symptoms. And then she asked me about being suicidal. And when I told her I could see the fear in her eyes. And at that point, all of a sudden, I realized that she was scared. And all of a sudden, I realized that this wasn't necessarily a safe space for me to share that. And she didn't know what to do with me. She didn't know how to handle me. And all of a sudden, I didn't know what to do. And I realized that I was in a place where sharing that information was hard. And this was supposed to be a place where I was supposed to be able to feel, good and light, and someone else was going to, be able to kind of share this burden with me. Mm. And what I ended up doing was, she said to me, she's like, how about going to step aerobics? And I know that, exercising is good, but I could barely get out of bed and go to class. Mm-hmm. So I felt like my suicidality was very minimized. Mm-hmm. And ironically enough, that was the turning point of my career. Because what I ended up walking away that day and realizing was she couldn't help me because she was afraid of being in the dark. That she was someone who probably, still needed some time, or maybe that just wasn't going to be her people. But what I realized is that I needed to live, because there needed to be able to be a space for people to come and share that they were suicidal, that they were feeling hopeless, that they were in these dark spaces, and that people could be able to say, I hear you, and I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, and that doesn't scare me, and I'm going to walk with you on this journey, and we're going to get you back, and we're going to show you the light, and we're going to be able to remind you about what it's like to live again and why you want to live again. And I realized that day that that's what I needed to be for other people. And so that's why I became a therapist.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I got chills when you said, and so I realized why I need to live. And what my takeaway in part, one of them is that there's beauty from your ashes. Like your purpose has come from that very dark time, and that you're willing to bring voice to it and vulnerability to it so that other people can see, what's possible. We need everyday people in our backyards, not Hollywood, not a news story, to be able to relate to and say, oh my gosh, if she could do it, so can I. So thank you for being that. And then, my eyes just got so watery listening to you, the way that you're willing to sit with people and help them to reconnect with, a desire to live again and why. It's just so profound. As you know, I've shared with you that I too had, there were a couple times in my life where I was struggling with depression that led to suicide. And so I too resonate with you. It's like all the work that I do today comes from, the beauty from the ashes and finding the courage to have the conversations so that it brings hope and healing to other people. I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate you being willing to share for others who may need to find you.
Absolutely. And I hope other people continue to do that because it's so important to realize, really, if you take a look at it and look at the numbers, up to 50% of the population deals with anxiety and depression. And we need to be so much more aware of that, half of us in a room at any one point in time are dealing with it. And so there's more in our team than we think. And to be able to be kind and compassionate and recognize that so many of us have been there, so many of us have walked that journey. I think it's so important, to be able to share our stories and be able to, again, just, be on a team with each other.
And because of the nature of what we're talking about, I just want to make sure that if somebody feels like they want to get in touch with you, you're available on Psychology Today. And you're in Covington. Michelle Mong, M-O-N-G. And so thank you. Thank you. Is there an email or a phone number you also would want to include just in case, or not so much?
Sure. You can do, it's Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E .mong, M-O-N-G .lmft at gmail.com. My phone number is 253-347-3343, and I do it by text. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, ladies, if you are interested to learn more about what our 6-week group coaching program, Move from Fear to More Freedom to Create a Life You Love, that's coming up in January. If you're curious to learn more about that, go ahead and click on the link below and make it a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.